All right. Sean and I are going to call to order the East Lyme Salem Cooperative Committee meeting on January 23rd, 2023. At 6:03. Want to do the
Sure.
introduction first? All right, so
Yeah,
go ahead.
all right, so some new people since last time. Why don't we just go around and introduce some of the folks that are present in the room from Salem, and then if you can hear me, Salem Board of Ed members that are participating via Zoom, once we go around the table here, if you could interject and introduce yourselves as well, that'd be great.
I'm Ryan Little in this.
Tiffany Cunningham.
Dan Marsh. Brian Harrison.
Sean Reed.
Okay, and then we're going to do Jamie Barr Shelburne, acting chair tonight, usually the secretary.
Jeff Newton, superintendent.
Legion Akis, acting secretary tonight, normally just a board member.
Hi, Elisa Bradley, board member.
Esteban Garcia.
Kate Steele, board member. Hi.
Bill Terry.
Elise Spaziano, Assistant Superintendent. Hi, everybody. Mary Ellen Stevens, Director of Finance.
And then we have some board members on Zoom. If you guys could just tell us who you are.
Hi, everyone. This is Candace Carlson, East Lyme Board of Ed.
Hi, this is Christina Fontaine.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Christina.
Sorry. Hello.
Go ahead, Christine.
Hi, I'm Christina Fontaine with the Salem Board of Ed.
Okay, Jill Carini, East Lyme Board of Ed.
Jill. That would be Laura. Hi, Laura.
Greenstein, okay.
All right, and then we have guests.
This is
And
Jen
Ken.
Rucci from Salem Board of Ed.
Thanks, Jen.
I see Kim.
She's in, yeah, she's on, but
And we can see your virtual presence, we just can't see you yet.
Oh, I'm here. No worries.
All right,
All
I
right,
think that's,
that would be it.
Yep.
We do have public comment on the agenda tonight.
yeah, I think we left it on from the previous year too.
All right, do we have any members of the public who would like to make a comment tonight? Do we have any members of the public who would like to make a comment tonight? Do we have any members of the public who would like to make a comment tonight? All right, seeing none. We will go to the approval of the minutes, and we do have 2 minutes to approve tonight.
all right, so for the Salem board, there was an additional packet that was emailed out earlier. It's the meeting minutes from January of 2021. I don't think we had the co-op meeting in 22.
We did, we just didn't have the minutes to all the Salem members so that they.
Got it, right. So if we want to take, we just say 2 minutes to be able to
We
read
can take
over
those
the,
2 minutes.
over the minutes from 2021. It'll bring you back in time.
It's fine. I think you guys got them by Jackie earlier
Yeah,
today,
she's
right?
been emailed type.
Mhm.
Everybody wants a copy too. I've got a copy.
Oh, thanks.
Here's 2022. You can see what I'm saying.
You want a single motion to approve both?
Sure.
Oh,
Perfect.
You doing 2 separate motions?
Okay, 2 minutes is up approximately. So we're going to, we'll make 2 motions to approve the minute packages individually. So can I get them? I think it's just you and I voting for it. So I'll make a motion to approve the minute package from January 25th, 2021.
And I'll second that.
Does any Member have any other questions, comments, or modifications to that minute package? Okay. All right, hearing none. All in favor to approve the minute package from January 25th, 2021, say aye. Aye. Right.
Do you have any?
Yeah, so I think for these, just for the new members, at the co-op meeting, the chairs vote on the action. So for those.
It's a weird,
Yeah. All right.
it's a weird dynamic for the co-op meetings. All right, and I will like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 24th, 2022 meeting.
And I'll second that. Questions, comments, modifications to that minute package?
All right. Okay, so I don't think we're on the next one.
What do you want to vote on?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
aye, sorry.
Yeah. So,
It's weird.
okay.
All right, next agenda item is shared food services program.
Yes, so Mr. Urban is here and I know he was recently at the board meeting, I think, and gave an update on the food service program there. Yeah, if there's any questions at all, Chris was with us last year when we held this meeting, so we invited him back just because it's a shared program and shared services between the two districts. So any questions or comments, or hopefully you're going well? And
I thank you for the email you sent me after the last meeting about the
Oh.
vegan food,
Yeah,
vegetarian food.
I was actually gonna be at that meeting, but the Salem meeting instead, so. Didn't-
I thank you, the students were excited to hear
Yeah,
that.
and we're actually gonna be doing we have a wellness committee meeting where we're inviting students to come sample some of the new foods and give their input also. The only thing I wanted to update Salem and East Lyme on is, on Thursday, the legislators go back to work.
Yep.
And, one of the things on their agenda is potentially extending the free lunches for the rest of the school year. So,
they're going back to it then.
Write your legislator.
yeah, it's it's something they're gonna look at, so. Don't be shocked on Friday morning, if you get an email from me saying, we're going back free on Monday. So we don't know how it will look or how they would go about it, but it is in the works, so. Like I said, nothing surprises me anymore, so they could approve it, they could not. They found an extra $60 million somewhere, I don't. So,
Do we know where that is in the legislative agenda?
they said it was one of the first, I sent Brian and Jeff both
Yeah, it's this.
the email. They said it's in their like top 5 things they're looking at right away, so it's an emergency motion, so they would vote on it right away. And then they're also putting in one to make it going forward, starting next school year also, but that's a separate bill.
Interesting to see.
Anyone else have any questions for Chris? Kate?
Has there been a dip in food consumption as a result of?
Lunch hasn't dropped as much, breakfast definitely dropped. But breakfast was really slow before we started, but lunch actually has been growing more, seeing it at Salem a lot also. That the numbers are starting to grow more now that parents are actually going grocery shopping and seeing what it's costing them a week. And the $15 a week school lunch is a much better option. But yeah, they have been growing. The high school, we went from doing 700 to 800 lunches a day. Now they're doing around almost 5 again, but they dropped to around 3 that first week. But they've already climbed back up 200.
Thank you.
Anybody from Salem have any follow-up questions to?
No, just thank you.
It's been a good partnership so far. We just, like we said, we're starting our 4th new program with you. Since we've done pandemics and starting, stopping, doing summer meals. And we might be starting a 5th one on Monday if they go back to going free. So.
See. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, all right. Appreciate it, Chris. So We'll go to agenda item 3B, discussion action on the reconciliation of Salem tuition rates for 22-23. So we brought our calculators this time.
So you guys have good news though, right? I don't know if it was shared, I'm sure it was shared with you. So your rate from 22, before I get into the reconciliation, your 22-23 rates. 23-24 compared to 22-23, your regular ed just went up slightly, like maybe 0.4%, 0.35%. And then your special ed rate went down about a little over 6%. So I think that's good news in our reconciliation when we get to it, where, I mean, that's, I think the closest we've ever been. It's only, I think there's an underpayment of $10,000, which is, I think, pretty reasonable considering, you know, that we're 2 years in arrears when we're doing these rates.
Yeah, I mean, and for sure, this budget cycle, for us, yes, that is positive for sure. I mean, I think last year, for example, the regular ed tuition year over year change was in the 9% rate range for regular ed, even a little bit higher on the special ed. This year, it's holding nearly flat for regular ed and decreasing for special ed. So it's amazing, you know, looking into it, seeing the year over year change and where that is, and then coupled with what our projection is for the quantity of students in both the regular ed and special ed categories attending. Those two things make up, you know, a large portion of our budget. And the same thing goes for reconciliation. I think last year, the previous reconciliation was like 150K or something like that. Yeah, so it's a big.
And so just some of the things that are contributing, I'll just touch on that and then I'll get into the reconciliation.
Sure.
And for those of you that are new to it, we're 2 years in arrears. So when we're calculating next year's tuition, we're basing it on 21-22. So the year we just finished and audited, so that we have real numbers. The biggest factor, well, there's two things. One, the rates that we did for this year, 22-23, were on the 2021 budget. So that was our budget where we had, it was the year we came back from COVID. We had hybrid, we had virtual, we had, you know, extra expenses that were paid for the plexiglass and the, you know, the extra proctors and monitors for lunch and, you know, so there were more expenses in that year. So that also attributes why when we reconciled, you guys were underpaid by $161,000.
So just out of curiosity, with understanding, a little bit understanding about how the calculation factors that in and why the expenses were higher, and it's due to like everything's plexiglass and all the, I'll call it the COVID expenses. The architects of the co-op, when they did it and they created the formula, did they, I mean, ARPA funding, grant funding for those type of, how does that?
That's factored in. So
It
I
is
did not, anything that was paid, anything that's paid out of grant funding is not part of
Gotcha.
this calculation.
Gotcha.
That would not be appropriate. It would be double dipping, so no. So it's strictly just anything that we paid out of operating expenses. Has no, you know, we have some staff that we charge to grants, for example. I don't build that into this cost because we're not paying it, and it's just the nature of how we have allocated some of our staff. So it doesn't bear into it. I don't know. I'd have to look at the agreement, but I wouldn't factor it in here just because it just wouldn't be. So, and for some reason in 2021, where our percentage of high school students was at about 37%. In 2021, the percent of high school students as part of our enrollment was 39%. So obviously, when we're allocating 39% of the cost to the high school versus 37% in the previous year, so that's also another factor that attributed in 2021 to a higher cost. But now we're back down to 37%. And then the other.
So 2021,
which is what the 2022 rates were based on. Our allocation, the allocation of high school was higher. It was 39% of enrollment.
So 30 of,
So when you look on that first page and
Sure.
we'll get into it,
sure,
we allocate, I take the total cost for the district, and I allocate based on enrollment, and I allocate that percentage to, the high school. So typically it's been around 37% give or take, you know,
right,
whatever percent here or there. In 2021, that allocation was 39% rather than the 37 and change.
okay,
And if you go back to the other reconciliations. And then our special ed numbers increased as well. So when that increases, obviously the per pupil cost decreases because you're allocating that cost over a larger. So that's kind of all I wanted to touch on. I was gonna go through the reconciliation unless anyone has any questions or anything more specific.
Dan, Tiffany, Brian, Jen, Christine, anybody have any questions? Brian?
No, I actually understand reconciliation, which means I need to leave the board.
What about the tuition rates? Behavior year over year, good. Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna go over what I have. I just didn't know what I, or any questions on what I said. And then, and when you look at the first page, you'll also see our transportation costs have increased as well, and that decreases because we subtract that from the total cost. So our transportation costs in this reconciliation increased
Sure.
by about 200 and change, 250,000 and change. So that obviously is what we allocate to the high school, to the same. So I'm just gonna start with the first page and, you know, kind of self-explanatory, but the top portion, you basically, and Kim's on there, so stop me if I say anything or you wanna interject or say anything. Our unaudited and audited remain the same this year. There were no changes when the auditors came in to do the EFS. So if you did see a copy of the unaudited, that would change. So the numbers are the same. So basically we take our total education cost, which is on the EFS, and then subtract out the special ed cost, again, from the EFS schedule, which for some of you is old PDO 1. And we come up with what our regular education expenditures are. And then based on the high school enrollment over total enrollment, we calculate what percentage the high school makes up of the total budget. And so that's where number 4 there, where you see 37.26. In 2021, that percentage was 39 and change. So obviously there was a higher allocation of expenses that year. And then we subtract out our transportation costs to come up with a per pupil expense. We add the surcharge, which is in the agreement of $76.50, and that gives you the regular education cost. And then when we go down to the high school, again, this is all the special ed, all based on expenses that are allowed in the agreement. Pretty straightforward. I'm not going to read it, but we obviously come down to our total high school special ed salaries, benefits, applied. That number was also lower than we had in the past. And as I said, the enrollment of special ed students in the previous reconciliations 405 and we're at 445. So obviously that reduces the per pupil cost. And then the high school SPED enrollment went up. I think we were at 130 or 131 and it's 139. So take that, we add it to the regular ed cost, and then come down with our cost per pupil reconciled for 21-22. So then in the next, does anyone have any questions on this? First page. And Kim has all the support, all the backup. I've also included a lot of that in here in the past few years, so you guys have it as well. So then on the next page, and basically we take that reconciled rate and then we add 5%, which is 2.5% per year, which is in the agreement. And we had, this is 2 years, we have $2 to the surcharge, and we come up with our employee rate for 23-24 for both special ed and for regular ed. So as you can see, being 2 years in arrears, sometimes it's things change and things happen, so. um, Do our best, but it's based on numbers that are 2 years. I don't have any questions on that. And the next 2 pages are really my support for everything that's on the front page. I think the sheet that are really page 5, which I think is of importance to you guys, would be then where we come up with our overpayment, underpayment. As you can see, there was an underpayment in the regular ed tuition for 21-22, and then an overpayment in the special ed tuition, netting $10,000 in a total overpayment, which what happened is next year in 23-24, that'll be assessed to the tuition rate, to the tuition invoices that we send. It's divided over 10 months and will be added to those invoices. And the next page is just more backup. And then the last page is the section that's taken out of the agreement that explains.
Does anybody have any questions about what Mariana just went over? Anyone online? Candace, Jill, Laura, Jennifer, Christine.
I have no questions, James.
Go ahead, Jill.
I have no questions.
Jill.
I'm just put my thumb up, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said you had.
I didn't talk, I just put my thumb up.
Nope, that's fine. Does anyone else have a question on there?
Yeah, so one of the things that we always continue to do is try to figure out, okay, how can we project in the future how this trends, right? And so clearly it's when would you first be able to do the reconciliation calculation? Do you wait for the audit?
I usually do it after the EFS. That would be because we use the EFS schedules.
Yeah.
That's due September 1st.
So that,
So
okay.
likely, September, October, I think that was like this year, I got it to Kim in late October, early November,
Okay,
but that would typically be when I would do the initial one. And then
Okay.
once the auditors come in, which is typically, it's due December 31st to the state. And
Yep.
we're usually right around that time frame.
okay.
There's not typically any major changes.
So it's pretty,
It's pretty, like this year, there were none.
nothing,
at
it's
all.
just identical. Okay.
I want to say last year there was a minor change. I don't think it was a big deal, but I said, I'm fairly comfortable in the numbers.
Sure,
But again, they come in, they could possibly, classify the wrong area,
but the preliminary you get in October, September, October is pretty close. So I think we, get visibility into that, at the start of budget season, that's pretty good. And then, we don't vote until tonight, right, for the tuition rates. Okay. And what's your and then your predictor for those, when do you get the numbers put together to come to tonight's meeting? When you have that package rolled up
So.
for the tuition rates, yeah.
So as I said, I think we got our audit report finalized on January 2nd or 3rd, I think is when they filed it.
Yeah,
So I think I got it to him maybe the end of that week or the
so
beginning of the.
January.
January.
So January is the earliest, basically, you could get.
Well,
insight.
the auditors came in and did it sooner and audited and finalized it in, mid-December, then I think put it out.
Do you have, you have preliminary reconciliation numbers, September, October, do you have preliminary?
Yeah, this whole packet, this exact packet
Okay,
goes to Kim.
oh, okay, gotcha.
The entire packet, it just says unaudited, so the rates are in there.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
this
thank you.
entire packet, it's not just the entire packet goes to.
Gotcha.
So she can review it, make
Okay.
sure there aren't any issues.
Sean, this is Kim.
Hey.
Yeah, the rates that are in her, even in the unaudited package, that's what we use to start our budget with. So we get those really early. She was very early this year. I don't know how she did that, but good job.
Even better.
Okay, very good. So we have, let me go ahead. All right, so oh, yeah, so it's the act for B, right? Okay, so we'll do it separately. So B, so need a motion to approve the reconciled Salem tuition rates for 22-23 as follows. One, Salem base tuition rate for 14,601 19 cents, and two, Salem total premium tuition rate of 30,394.42 cents for a total underpayment of $10,604.76 as presented. Okay.
Any discussion?
Questions, comments? Applications? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, pass unanimous.
This is Kim, just one thing for everybody to note, those rates you just approved were the actual rates for 21-22, not 22-23.
Did we read the wrong motion?
No, you get the next one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then there's another motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right.
so we read the right motion?
Yeah.
You did.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So the second is. The next thing on the agenda is the proposed Salem tuition rates for Salem students attending East Lyme High School for 23-24. Go ahead. All right, I would like to make a motion to approve the Salem tuition rates for 2024 as follows. Base tuition rate $15,329.42 and two premium tuition rate of $31,912.32.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Comments, questions? Nope, seeing that? To vote?
Yep.
Aye,
Aye, all in favor, aye.
aye, all in favor, aye. All right, moving right along. D. Am I on the right one? D? Yep.
Yep.
Update on East Lyme Public School Superintendent's proposed budget for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Yes, as we typically do, Superintendent Hendrickson and myself, we can give a quick update on our budgets for next year. I presented back on January 9th to the Board of Ed and provided them with superintendent's proposed budget. It's a 6.97% increase over the current fiscal year. The major drivers in that, obviously salaries and rolling over, salaries for everybody, but health insurance as well as inflation are probably the two bigger animals. Health insurance, we put in a percent increase of about 12%, which is pretty high. Last year it was 1.25%. This year it came out to be 10.5%. And they were recommending between 9 to 12. That's recently come down a little bit, which is a good thing. Hopefully that continues to trend downward. But as of right now, we're leaving a 12% increase in health insurance, which is again a large percent of that overall increase for the new fiscal year. Inflation, everybody's dealing with inflation. We're looking at roughly almost about 420,000, I think, Mariana, it was about around that number for inflation. We've got a $57 million budget roughly. So that number across our 6 buildings with energy and oil and gas and everything else, everything is on the rise. So that was the other big driver of this number. We reduced some staff originally when we came out of the gate and just rolled everything over and had our first budget workshop. We were sitting at about 10.3% for an increase. We reduced that down about $1.8 million to get down to the 6.97. And had to reduce some staffing positions, about 18.5 staffing positions. Some of those are part of our remaining ARP ESSER funds, but those for us run out at the end of this year. So all of our funds will be expended. There's one more year available for districts that might have a lot more money than we had received. But we'll be done at the end of this year. So most of those positions were removed out of the budget. We're maintaining 1.5 rolling into the operating budget. So there was about 8.5 positions that were being funded this year out of that are the remaining ARP ESSER money. So that in a nutshell is kind of where we're at. We are going to work closely with the two deliberations next Monday night, we'll have a Board of Ed meeting and it will be mostly all about the budget for next year and where that number will look at all aspects of our reductions as well as the percent increase. We'll go down to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance in March, the March timeframe, and present to them as well after the Board of Ed finalizes on the budget and adopts it at their February 27th meeting. That will be the final adoption after a public hearing. So kind of a quick snapshot of where East Lyme's at right now.
Jeff, do you have additional like budget workshop meetings in the run up from now till then?
No, the only thing we're planning on doing is what we've kind of called a coffee talk per se, where we're just going to open up to the community to try and have some engaging conversation. We've been doing some Annalise has been doing some parent university topics. So we're going to tie into that. So we'll do a parent university on the budget. So that's got some winds in its sails. So we're going to use that forum. And we'll probably maybe even have it right out here. We did one about 7 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, right out here in the atrium, and we'll plan on doing another one. So, but those workshops generally come before I present the budget. We did one in November and then one in December, and then it's deliberations from there. So
What was last year's again?
last year's the final budget came in at 3.64 was a percent increase.
And what was it going into the Board of Finance?
Going into the Board of Finance, we were at a 4.5. It was around a 4.5, I think. They cut it they cut it $500,000. So that would make sense. So it's 1% basically reduction. So yeah. So we'll hope for no further reductions.
So if you did a pie chart of the increases here, it's inflationary type costs on fuel, electricity. I mean, I'm not sure what your solar offset is and how that's factoring in.
Not much. It does offset some,
Yeah.
but the unit is getting fairly old. 2026, I think, is the 20th year of that. But the increases in energy costs, all of our stuff's online too, if you want to on the website. But yeah, electricity, natural gas, heating oil, fuel accounts for most of the increase. It was about that $400,000 roughly. So on top of that, capital too. Our director of facilities and operations, Dr. Lund, will be presenting next Monday night and sharing out the capital items. We've got roughly 1.4 million in capital items. Some items here at the high school, middle school, some rooftop units. Believe it or not, Niantic Center needs a new roof. We didn't do that as part of the renovations 4 or 5 years ago. So there's some bigger capital items. So
Does East Lyme have this thing? I'm sure you know what it is, the non-lapsing type account.
you know, it's funny you say that. We were talking about that. We talked about it, about 7 years ago about doing it. And at the time we didn't, it was 1% that you can, now you can do 2%. So I think it will come back up in discussions with the board. I don't know if the board will want to move forward with it, but a lot of thoughts, I think, around that on both sides of the coin.
So just to give you a little insight, so in Salem, we've been also over several years talking this concept of non-lapsing. We got to the point where the Salem Board of Education made some motions and voted in favor of pursuing it with the Board of Finance. Years ago, prior to COVID, we pitched it to the Board of Finance. Salem Board of Finance didn't really want to engage on the concept at that time. Due to now we've emerged out of COVID, I think the concept is still solid. I think we reauthorized our previous recommendation and went so far to put some ground rules around tactical operations of how we would, set guardrails about how it would be used, what the thresholds are, its funding mechanisms, what the mechanisms for withdrawal, how it aligns with the state statutes, what some other towns are doing. And I think we had a session where we also rediscussed that with the Salem Board of Finance. I think we're going to be pursuing it a little bit more. And I think if we were to implement it, it would have to be something where the Salem Board of Finance agrees and, motions to action to pursue that further. Maybe ultimately needing the Board of Selectmen up in Salem to agree to it as well. The Board of Education, I think, fully endorses the concept. And track record, I mean, for example, last year, did you wind up when we don't fully expend all of our funds, we wound up giving it back to the town?
Correct.
And we have a history of doing that, and I wasn't sure, you guys probably do too.
We do. We give them back over 1.9 million in the last 5 years because we're grappling a little bit with a deficit for this current year. So we're working with the town. on that aspect. But yeah, we've given back, we always give back money at the end of the year, and that's part of the idea of potentially that account.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So for unanticipated, expenses that come up that you didn't, so like right now, your budget planning, you're not planning for a cyber event,
Right.
next year, but should one happen, and it costs money, you would maybe potentially structure it. So that's where you would be able to draw from it in an operating year where you don't plan on it.
Exactly.
We were thinking the same type of concept in our town. We're very sensitive to the population for students requiring special services moving in that could perturb our budget in an outsized way. And so that's, one of the triggering mechanisms that we would, envision using that. But yeah, so it, maybe.
Can be a good tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Done right, and all parties are in agreement, but we'll see. That will be a discussion by the Board of Ed coming up in the near future.
Anyone
Good
else?
question.
Questions, comments, online, anyone? All right. E.
Yeah, so discussion item, was it D or E? Sorry.
Yeah.
The update on the Salem Superintendent's proposed budget. So Brian, take it away. Your turn.
So, hello, good to see you all. Nice to meet some new faces here. So, superintendent's budget, the number that we came in on is 2.48. And all of the industry dynamics that Jeff described, inflation present in Salem, our fuel costs are going to be way up. Next year, salary and benefits, that's our big expense as well. It's about 75% of the budget. So the number for us is a very positive number this year. And as Sean talked about the non-lapsing account, those unexpected costs, the two big drivers for us having a 2.48 coming in number is our special education costs, which are going to vary every year. And what Mariana was talking about before is the reconciliation number. So those two variables came in our favor significantly this year, and due to some anticipated or received and anticipated retirements, as well as the health insurance, we're both on the state plan. So Jeff was talking about the new number. The state came out with that assumption range has shifted from the high end of 12 down to 10. So assuming that still maintains, and we have a 12% assumption as well right now. If we adjust that down as well with the retirements, our budget number is going to be well under 2%. So we're very fortunate to have that dynamic right now. And we try to do everything we can to look at our assumptions. We've done a lot of work on that last year and then again this year. So looking at how many students are going to be enrolled at East Lyme High School, how many buses we need. We're getting very granular with looking at all of our different assumptions that we have control over, which for us is very important to do because our scale is smaller. It's much smaller than East Lyme. So we're in a position where we're really uncovering as many rocks as possible to make sure our budget comes in as efficient as it can be. So Kim's online right now, so I don't know if she wanted to add anything or any of the board members that are here have anything to add. But again, I'll end it back with that non-lapsing account coming on board in Salem. It was apparent right out of the gate that we need to have some type of mechanism in place to deal with these variables that could swing and change. And you never want to be in a position where you're going to, well, as much as possible, going to the town and asking for help. So having that non-lapsing account is vital for us, and we'll be pursuing that. That's it.
Hey, Kim, are you, if you could hear, do you remember last year when we, in the district Salem decided to go into the state, health partnership plan? We had some good reasons for doing it. Do you remember what the, if we hadn't done that, what our projected health, benefit percentage increase was going to be?
It was like 60%.
6-0?
6-0.
Around
Saying
65.
65%. So,
Wow.
so last year we were facing quite the situation. So, we weren't part of the partnership plan, and our renewal rates were, and that was best case scenario. So, we had to do something radically different, and that's what pushed us into the state partnership plan, which again, when we went in, we knew it was going to lock us in for 3 years. I think that's the way that it works. So even this year, when we're looking at 10% increase. I mean, they bumped it down a little bit from 12. It's still, orders of magnitude less than what it was in the year past. But we had our last board meeting, we had a presentation by our
What One Digital is our insurance broker.
Yeah.
So we have a new broker this year who's
One Digital?
phenomenal. Yeah. The industry trends.
Yeah.
Were you self-insured or part of a consortium, part of that, or fully?
I think,
insured?
yeah, Kim, can you, before we joined the state partnership plan, what was what,
Must have been part of some sort of.
We were fully insured.
You're fully insured, yeah. But yeah, that's, our highest was 24% years back, and then that's when we went to the state
That's when we
partnership
went to
plan,
the
yeah.
state.
yeah, so it's like.
Six.
those
I
things
thought that was high.
Yeah.
They kick you in the rear to, all right, get motivated to do this.
Definitely.
Okay, I'll do it.
50%.
You'd think with a state surplus too of what, I don't know how many millions.
275 million.
Oh, this year, right?
You dump some money into, to help offset those costs, because I know there's districts that are pulling out now of the state partnership.
Well, so that was the thing, when we were having the presentation by One Digital, our broker, about this, of the status and the health of the plan. It looks like, is this plan super healthy? And I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
we'll see where it goes, but hopefully, the trend drops slower, so. We'll
yeah,
keep our
but
fingers
it
crossed.
was telling that, now there are people pulling out.
Yep.
That was, and I think they said it was the first time that they've experienced that trend, since 2016 or so, but that's. See where that trend goes.
Yeah,
Wow, that's crazy.
We'll
Anyone
see.
have any questions for Salem?
All right. Future agenda items. Does anybody have any ideas next time? So we're meeting, what's their,
Next January.
is it next January? Are we still holding out hope, or we do this twice a year, or we just give up the ghost on that?
I don't know if we give up the ghost now. We haven't done it in a couple of years now. Maybe we leave it out there and we
Okay.
don't have it on.
To see you guys.
No, I know, it's just every time we schedule one for the summer, it always gets canceled.
Should we have those members who aren't present tonight conduct the meeting?
I
There you
think that's a great
Okay.
idea.
Because we've got some.
That's
Like the minutes reflecting.
We're gonna, we told them that they are in charge next, in the summer meeting.
Point down, that's a account advocacy.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's a good idea, right?
that might, I mean, if we need
We can write that
to.
as an agenda item, not lapsing account.
Leave it open, though. Yeah, there's a possibility to. For some
Some
discussions.
meeting.
And again, when were you guys, end of February, you were meeting with your board of finance?
So, the Board of Ed will adopt after a public hearing on February 27th, and then through March, not to the end of March is really the timeline for we'll be done with the Board of Finance. And then end of March, April is when the Board of Finance will finalize to get its referendum in May.
I gotcha. Our schedule is like the first week of March is where we'll present to our board of finance, and then I think we go back for 3 rounds of that.
So you have a budget subcommittee meeting next week. We'll have a full board meeting on February 6th. So hopefully we'll adopt the budget, go to the Board of Finance on March 9th. Public hearings first week of April.
There you go.
Good luck with everything.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
all right. Any ideas, future agenda items if we do this a year from now
Or this summer,
or the summer?
anybody? No? All right,
All right, I'll just take it from here.
all right. I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that. Questions, comments? No? All right. All in favor to adjourn the meeting, say aye.
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 Motion meeting is adjourned. As always,
Thanks, everybody.
stay on paper.